All right, good evening, everyone. Hope you had a good Sunday, good weekend. Um, I did. Church was awesome. I have a great church, great pastor. Browns lost though. Unfortunately, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, and they lost in spectacular fashion. A game they should have won, but I don't really watch football that much anymore. I'll just kind of watch the Browns when I can. Anyways, my name's Steve. I have a blog at christiananarchist.com. And I don't know, once a week, every Sunday night at 8, I want to vent and talk about things I find interesting or funny or whatnot. And I know for the last few weeks I've picked on Joe Biden, but I can't help it. I cannot help it. I've got to do it again. In fact, I just saw 5 minutes ago. Otherwise, I would have put this on here. I even saw Saturday Night Live poking fun at Joe Biden. I couldn't believe it. I don't know. Maybe because their ratings are bad. They're trying to appeal to more people than just Democrats or whatever. Kind of interesting. I don't know. Here we go. You ready for this? Once a week, I'm gonna get one of these.
Let me start off with two words. Made in America. Made in America.
He says it twice. I mean, this is a minor thing. I get it. It's still funny. Everyone's going crazy about it. But what's really funny is Lauren Boebert. I don't know. She's in the House, I believe, or a candidate. She goes, 2 words, let's go, Brandon. Okay, I get it. Let's go, Brandon. Whatever. Kind of funny, just poking fun at Joe Biden. And all these blue checks were making fun of Lauren Boebert. 3 words, you're an idiot. And George Takei, this complete buffoon. I don't know who's worse, this guy or David Hogg. Whew, they're both up there. She can't count. Is Lauren Boebert dumb as dirt or just unable to count? I don't even know who this dude is. And John Cooper, breaking, Lauren Boebert just completely humiliated herself tweeting 2 words, let's go Brandon. That's 3 words. She's such a friggin' moron. Oh, these people are goofy. I'm sure they're gonna, once they find out what's going on here, poke fun at Joe Biden. Oh, of course they won't. Anyways, shifting gears, more about Biden, but this isn't necessarily poking fun at Joe Biden. This actually happened.
I want to say this again. America is fully prepared with our NATO allies to defend every single inch of NATO territory. Every single inch.
Something happened with the video. Anyways, he's basically saying America's going to defend every square inch of NATO territory, which they're trying to make Ukraine part of NATO territory, and trying to get us into World War III, nuclear war. I don't know why it's not playing.
Again, allies to defend every single inch of NATO territory. Every single inch.
All right, well, something's going on there. But yeah, crazy, right? What's even crazier, apparently, there's no video of this that I know of. I read somewhere that he said this to a group of, it's like a fundraiser event, group of billionaires and whatnot. But apparently, he said the prospect of Armageddon is the highest since the Cuban Missile Crisis. How is this not top news? I mean, this is the New York Times, and apparently it was reported by them. The President of the United States of America is saying that there's the prospect of Armageddon is the highest that's been since the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's nuts. It's nuts. So the question is, what are you doing to prevent that from happening? We're doing everything possible to escalate the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. There is no talk of trying to figure out what we can do to resolve that as peacefully as possible. Heck, there was just a bridge that was blown up. I think it was a bridge of some sort, where like 3 innocent people died. Truck bomb drove over and blew the thing up. 3 innocent people died. War is hell. It's the most horrific thing. We should be doing everything we possibly can to not escalate war or the prospects of war. And the fact that Biden's saying this and no one's talking about it is just nuts. 2020. Trump is going to start World War III. 2022. We need to start World War III. It is crazy how many people are, not necessarily saying that, but that's what the end result would be by escalating these conflicts between Russia and Ukraine. It's nuts. It's nuts. These people are crazy. I don't know. I don't know what to make of all that. The only thing I know is we need to put a stop to it. This is going to be a quick stream. I saw this. It's an opinion article from The Hill. And I wanted to read a little bit of it. This actually came out today. And it's the title is "The Libertarian Party is Collapsing. Here's Why." Just wait till you read this. It's really funny. Alright, I don't want it to play a video. So, let me see if I can kind of zoom in a little bit here. I'm not going to read this whole thing word for word, but this was written by Andrew Koppelman. No clue who that is, but apparently he works for The Hill. Or he's an opinion contributor. This is the first paragraph. Only a few years after its greatest triumph, and I don't know what triumph they are referring to, getting 2% of the vote. Okay, so already I'm like, the Libertarian Party has accomplished something? That's news to me. I'd love to know what that is. Anyways, okay, let me move on. The Libertarian Party is collapsing, torn apart by an insurgency of alt-right sympathizers with racist tendencies. Ooh. Wow. So already this guy is off his rocker. First starts off by saying the Libertarian Party triumphed, which I have no idea. The greatest triumph. And now it's ran by alt-right sympathizers with racist tendencies. Okay. Let's continue. See what he has to back this up. Libertarianism, the idea that state power must be absolutely minimized, relies on ideas of individual rights that seem flatly inconsistent with racism. And yet, libertarian rhetoric has always had powerful attractions for those who wanted to resist racial equity. How is that possible? Oh boy, maybe I will read this whole thing. I don't know if I'm up for it. There is in fact a connection, but it is one of psychology and political history rather than logic. I just published a history of libertarianism. Oh, I'm sure that's a joy to read and factually accurate. It is a critical introduction to this ideology, which has done much to shape American politics. Okay. You what? libertarianism has done much to shape American politics, I focused on its major thinkers, Hayek, Friedman, Epstein, Rothbard, Nozick, and Rand, and sought to address their strongest arguments. Oh, right. None of them were racist. Okay, so that's good to know. And most rejected racism vehemently. So I largely ignored the linkage with racism. Yet now it presents itself. So the party never had a hint of racism, rejected outright. But now we see racism. Okay. That's interesting. In May, the party was taken over at its national convention by the so-called Mises Caucus. The so-called Mises Caucus. A far-right group, some of whose members have been associated with racist and anti-Semitic ideas. And you click that link right here, and it takes you to The Nation. This buffoon wrote a hit piece on it, which I'm not even going to read this, but it's crazy. It's just as crazy. The caucus is named after the libertarian economist Mises, whose philosophy was pretty crude, as I explained in the book, but who firmly condemned racism. All right, let's see. They talk about the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, which is the most radical of all Twitter accounts as it relates to the Libertarian Party. And they will post some things that make people cringe. Like famously, I don't know, a month or so ago, they tweeted a picture of John McCain's daughter, and I'm blanking on her name, crying at his funeral. And a lot of people thought that was very insensitive to someone mourning the loss of their father. And I didn't particularly like it either. I don't think it accomplished much, but I don't know. Their point in doing that is pointing out that John McCain was a bloodthirsty maniac who's responsible for pushing all of these horrific wars America's involved in. And if we can't condemn murder and war, then what are we doing? Anyways, their tactics aren't always the best. And they have called for violent repression of Antifa and Black Lives Matter protesters. What? Who's called for that? What is this? Oh, geez. It links to the Southern Poverty Law Center. And they wrote a hit piece. Boy, man, the Mises Caucus and them, they're getting on people's radar. And maybe that's because people are noticing. I don't know what they're referring to when they say they have called for violent repression. I would be curious to know. The word violent doesn't show up in here. These people are goofy. I think this article, look at by the way, the first article I clicked, it says libertarians are poised to help re-elect Trump. See what I mean? These people have no clue what they're talking about. It's really funny. By the way, before I continue, obviously I call myself an anarchist. Philosophically, right? And boy, this really goes down to a whole nother discussion by itself. But if I were to vote, I would be more than likely voting for the Libertarian Party as it pertains to the presidency, especially if the likes of Dave Smith or someone like him would run. I would vote. I really would. But I do have some sympathies for the folks in the Mises Caucus, which Dave Smith is actively involved with. And these people are not racist. And the fact that they think they are is just hilarious. I would have to read into this further. I'm not going to go down too much of a rabbit hole. But if someone actually called for a violent repression of Antifa, my guess is that would be in self-defense. Or in defense of property. So no one's going out calling for them to initiate aggression. As we know, that violates libertarian philosophy. So that certainly wouldn't be the case. They talk about Gary Johnson. He got 3.3%, and he was the most successful libertarian candidate in history. I don't know. Is that what they're referring to? Let's see. The insurgents are funded by donors who have been close to President Trump. Suggested that the takeover is part of a coordinated Republican stratagem to destroy a party that has been draining away Republican votes. What? If Trump had gotten every libertarian vote in 2020, he would have won. Okay, that means nothing. I love how they just assume. Anyways, they just assume that if. And Dennis Prager was going through this, saying that libertarians are going to let the bad guys win. They're going to let the Democrats win if they vote libertarian. And they just assume that any person who votes libertarian would otherwise vote Republican. And that is certainly not the case. Many people wouldn't vote altogether. And there's many people that might vote or would vote for Democrats. And there are some that would vote Republican if there was no libertarian candidate. But just to say, what a stupid sentence this is. My guess is most libertarians wouldn't vote if there wasn't a libertarian candidate. But if Trump got every vote, he would have won. Okay. These people are goofy. I don't know. Let's see. They said that the leadership has adopted messaging and communications hostile to the principles for which the Libertarian Party was founded. Okay, that's just his opinion. This stratagem would not be possible unless the alt-right people were available for recruitment. There is a reason why they joined Libertarians instead of Greens, another party whose principles are equally antithetical to them. Well, what a garbage article. Some libertarians even dream of abandoning the state for clusters of self-governing enclaves, some of which could all be white. It's so funny. Yeah, some libertarians even dream of abandoning the state for clusters of self-governing enclaves, some of which could all be white. Oh my gosh, just think of it. And some of them could all be all black. Some of them could be all Asian. I don't know. The whole idea is if it's voluntary. If people want to voluntarily get together and have a self-government of their own, sure, whatever. So goofy. Ayn Rand, no article about libertarianism is complete if they don't mention Ayn Rand. And to be honest with you, I've never really read Ayn Rand. She is not interesting to me in any way whatsoever. I don't know. I know enough about her way of thinking, I guess. But they say that she said racism is the lowest, most crudely primitive form of collectivism. But her condemnation of unproductive parasitic moochers, I don't know who's saying moochers, has more resonance when you think you know who those people are. Okay. What is he trying to say there? But her condemnation of unproductive, parasitic moochers has more resonance when you think you know who those people are. I guess he's trying to say that it resonates if you think that unproductive, parasitic moochers are of a specific race. Just so stupid. This is the paragraph I read. I skipped to the end. And I just had to talk about this. Libertarianism offers a peculiar version of the heroic, solitary individual who sustains himself without any external support. No. Very few libertarians think that they're going to live a heroic, solitary individual who sustains themselves without any external support. That is just false. That is just undeniably false. This dumbed down, stupid person who doesn't know anything about libertarianism. Voluntarism, which I think is a better term, just keeping everything voluntary. No one thinks they can do everything themselves. I wouldn't be able to put an iPhone together, but I get tons of value from an iPhone. But I exchange my money for that voluntarily to people who specialize in making an iPhone. Same for growing food. I probably should learn how to garden and stuff, but I just don't. It's just not something that's super appealing to me. I would rather go to a farmer and someone who specializes in growing rice or broccoli or whatever and exchanging money for that. And then I'll specialize on what I enjoy doing or I'm good at. But it's the voluntary interaction and cooperation that helps us thrive. That's the whole idea. No one thinks that you should live out in the woods by themselves with no help from anyone whatsoever. Yeah, there might be a few people like that, and it might sound good, but it is a pretty rough existence if you are doing everything by yourself without any external support. No one thinks that way. These people are goofy. This guy's an idiot. It says, I don't depend on anybody. I can take care of myself. This fantasy of autarky can also involve the capacity to separate from people one doesn't like. Oh my gosh. That means you can decide to not involve yourself with people you don't like? Unacceptable. We need to force people who don't like each other to live together, to work together. What does that even mean? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know what this word means. Let me look this up. A policy of national self-sufficiency and non-reliance on imports or economic aid. Okay. It says that is the funniest sentence. It can also involve the capacity to separate from people one doesn't like. Wow. People would actually hang around with people that they like. Can you imagine the hellscape that would be? It denies any obligation to them that might be based either on shared membership in a community or on a history of wrongs that one has involuntarily benefited from. It denies any obligation to them that might be based either on shared membership in a community or on a history of wrongs that has involuntarily benefited from. Again, I don't know what he means by obligation. But again, the whole idea is that it's voluntary. If you want to live in a community and there's rules for the community, like if you know, let's say my neighborhood, I'm part of an HOA. What if the HOA said, hey, everyone needs to do this, this, and this if you want to live in this community, and if you don't do that, then you're not part of the community. Again, it's voluntary, but if you go in knowing what the rules are and you agree to it, then so be it. This fantasy is easy to swallow if it means that one gets to keep more of what one has. Okay. Here as elsewhere in libertarian thought, there is an active partnership between delusion and greed. That's how he ends the article? What is he... Oh, is this a book that he wrote or something? How libertarian philosophy was corrupted by delusion and greed. Oh, jeez, oh man. Anyways, these are confused people who don't... Listen. It boils down to this. Why can't everything be voluntary? That is my entire argument. That's what my logo is on my channel. For voluntarism. Everything should be voluntary. You don't force someone to do something that they don't want to do. It's really a very simple concept. Anyways, let me get back to I don't know. That's enough about this. I'm going to go crazy talking about that. One final thing. Maybe I have two things left. Let's listen to what... we're shifting gears. I can only talk about that for so long. Let's listen to Kamala Harris.
And speaking of the system of justice, we are also changing, y'all might have heard that this week, the federal government's approach to marijuana. Because the bottom line there is nobody should have to go to jail for smoking weed.
Oh my gosh, the nerve this lady has. Do you believe this lady? Let's go here. Let's check this out. This Kamala Harris... Oh, wearing a mask. I don't know what AFP is. I don't know if that's like the AP fact-checking thing. But I found this and I thought it was funny. Because I wanted to look up, like, for real. Like, there was a talking point that said she jailed over 1,500 black men for possession of weed. And famously, Tulsi Gabbard kind of called her out on that during the Democratic debates. And made the claim that, hey, Kamala admitted to smoking weed while, or during, or after she had locked up over 1,000, 1,500 people for smoking weed. And she laughed about it when asked about it, right? So here she is talking about, hey, no one should be in jail for smoking weed, but she literally made a career out of it. And this fact check is actually pretty funny. It's worth going through. So they're fact checking this meme specifically. Not meme. This picture. And it says she jailed 1,500 black men for possession of weed. And then it goes on to make another claim, which I'm not even going to focus on that. But it says she withheld evidence on 2 black men that were on death row. She released the evidence after they were executed. I'm not even going to talk about that. Didn't even read up on that. I'm more just focused on this first point. So let's focus on this first point, just to see if that's really true. Because if it is, and she's saying stuff like this, like she was just saying yesterday or today, it's nuts, right? So they mentioned the Tulsi Gabbard clip where Tulsi Gabbard said she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations. And they say that this figure appears to come from a 2019 article by the Washington Free Beacon entitled Kamala Harris Packed California Prisons with Pot Peddlers. And it quotes statistics from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation that at least 1,560 people were jailed for marijuana offenses in state prison when Harris was the Attorney General of California for 5 years. The website later published a correction and pointed to a fact check by the San Francisco Chronicle, which put the number of admissions to California state prisons for marijuana and hashish admissions at 1,974 during that period. So I had to read this twice because, well, wait, you have a giant X over this saying that this is misleading. It says, where is it? Oh, right here in the title. Misleading claim says that she jailed 1,500 black men. Well, it's because this says black men. and down here, they say that there's no breakdown for ethnicity and gender. But as part of this fact check, they found out it was actually 1,974 people that were thrown in jail for marijuana possession during that period. So it was actually more. It's like a 33% more. Almost 2,000 people she threw in jail for possessing marijuana. And here she is saying this.
And speaking of the system of justice, we are also changing, y'all might have heard that this week, the federal government's approach to marijuana. Because the bottom line there is nobody should have to go to jail for smoking weed.
Do you believe this lady? This shit's really unbelievable. Also, it's worth pointing out that this federal thing they're changing is going to do absolutely nothing, because most of these, if not all of simple possession of marijuana, are at the state level. Typically, if there is, in fact, I saw something that said that this would impact 0 people who have federal convictions or in jail in a federal prison for marijuana possession alone is 0. Because that is often a charge they'll tack on to something else, something larger. If there's a robbery and then they go through the guy's car and he happens to have a pound of weed or whatever, well, they'll tack that on, right? So the federal government isn't throwing people in jail for simple possession of marijuana, especially if it's a small amount. So I just can't believe the balls on this lady just to get up here and say that, given that she spent 5 years throwing 2,000 people in jail. It's wild. Anyways, completely shifting gears. I got one final thing that I saw this the other day and I was cracking up. Apparently, and this is all in subtitles, so apparently, I don't know who exactly put this out, but it came from Russia, and they are they're making fun of Americans. You have to watch this. I'm going to play this and then wrap this up.
Как я давно хотел это сделать.
В Америку летите?
Да, переезжаем.
Америка самая свободная страна. Страна возможностей.
А вы с мужем летите?
Да, мы вместе. Он сейчас подойдет. А вот и мой муж. Знакомьтесь.
Эмили.
Простите, мистер. Пассажиры позади вас вегетарианцы. Им неприятно, что при них употребляют мясо.
Мы же их не заставляем это.
Простите, но в США принято придерживаться принципов демократии.
It's so funny. So this continues. I'm going to play the rest of it. It gets more and more ridiculous, but it is pretty funny. We adhere to the principles of democracy. Hilarious.
Позвольте, я это заберу.
Парень, тут очередь в туалет.
What do you want?
В очередь, говорю, ставь в туалет.
I want to go to the toilet.
Простите, мистер, что случилось?
Да вот парень без очереди лезет тут.
И что? Вы не хотите его пропустить?
Я?
Конечно, конечно. Его надо пропустить. Мы подождем.
Его народ долгие годы терпел притеснение белых. Мы перед всеми афроамериканцами в долгу. Простите нас, сэр.
Прошу вас.
Her face. It's so funny.
Вы не могли бы пересесть в носовую часть самолета?
В смысле, я один?
Нет, вы все трое.
Зачем?
Там сзади пара, а не child free. Дело в том, что ваш сын попадает в поле их зрения, и это вызывает у них дискомфорт.
Прости, матушка Россия! Мы возвращаемся!
It's pretty funny. Forgive Mother Russia, we're coming back. I got a kick out of that. Again, I don't know who put that together. I saw another thing and it had a logo at the end, but I have no clue if that was the government or if it's just random group that put that together. Making fun of Americans. Obviously, it's pretty silly, but it is funny. Things aren't that bad yet, but there's some truth to some of that stuff, right? All right, finally, I got one last meme. I always want to end on a happy note. This was funny too, but this is too easy. But I got to make fun of Alec Baldwin. Grover nervously checks the room for firearms before his scene of Alec Baldwin. Pretty funny. You could make fun of the Alec Baldwin quite often for this. Dude, I heard they are going to continue filming that movie. Do you believe that? I thought they would just stop and say, nope, let's just scrap this crappy movie altogether. They're actually going to start filming it again. Who's going to want to film a scene with Alec Baldwin waving a gun around? Dude, someone died from that. So, I mean, it's crazy, right? And if you're Alec Baldwin, why would you even want to do that? You'd be like, no, listen, I'm out of the gun business. I'm out of making movies holding guns, aiming them at people and pulling the trigger, not doing it. I just don't want to even have a chance of potentially this happening again, which of course it never should have happened again and never should happen ever again. If you do the basic checks for when you pick up a firearm. But it never gets old making fun of Alec Baldwin for this. In fact, I'm curious how the court cases are going to turn out with this because, it does not look good for Alec Baldwin. Complete negligence. And it's a shame that lady died. But, yeah, I can't believe they're going to continue filming that. It's just wild. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here. My neck hurts and I'm getting tired. So hope you all have a great week. And I won't be doing this next week. I'm going to be traveling. But hope you guys have a good week and great evening. See ya. Bye.